Close your eyes and imagine stepping back into a college campus in the 1970s. Bell-bottom jeans, the scent of patchouli, a soundtrack of rock and soul drifting through dorm windows, and a sense of freedom in the air. The world was changing, and college students were at the center of it all. Today, we're taking you on a trip back to that unforgettable time, the adventures, the friendships, the music, and the unmistakable vibe of college life in the 70s. The 1970s were a time of social transformation. Students arriving on campus were caught between tradition and rebellion. Vietnam protests were winding down, but the echoes of activism still resonated. Campuses buzzed with political discussions, anti-war murals, and passionate debates that stretched long into the night. For many, college was the first taste of independence. Dorm rooms were small but alive with personality. Posters of Led Zeppelin, Fleetwood Mac, and the Rolling Stones covered the walls. Milk crates doubled as bookshelves, lava lamps glowed in dark corners, and turntables spun vinyl records that provided the soundtrack of youth. Cars were optional, bikes, hitchhiking, or simply walking were the usual ways to get around. Without smartphones or social media, the campus bulletin board was the heart of communication, plastered with flyers for concerts, protests, and poetry readings. Classes in the 70s weren't all that different in structure, but the culture around them was evolving. Professors encouraged critical thinking, and many courses reflected the era's changing world. Environmental studies, women's rights, and psychology gained popularity. Students filled lecture halls with notebooks in hand, pens scratching furiously to keep up. There were no laptops, no recorded lectures. If you missed class, you borrowed a friend's notes or hoped for a study group to catch you up. Libraries were sanctuaries. Rows of card catalogs, the quiet hum of microfilm readers, and the smell of aging books filled the air. Study sessions often stretched late into the night, fueled by black coffee from vending machines and endless conversations about everything from politics to poetry. College life in the 70s thrived on personal connection. Parties weren't announced through group texts. You found out by word of mouth or simply followed the music. House parties were legendary. Kegs in the backyard, stereo speakers cranked up, and students dancing under strings of colored lights. Music was a unifying force. Campus greens were alive with acoustic guitars and impromptu jam sessions. The biggest debates of the day? Which album was better, Rumors or Dark Side of the Moon? Dating culture was casual but genuine. Without dating apps, people met through friends, in class, or at rallies and concerts. Relationships often started with long, meandering conversations over coffee in dimly lit cafes. Fashion on campus was as much a statement as an outfit. Bell-bottoms, corduroy jackets, and tie-dye shirts were everywhere. Students expressed individuality through embroidered denim, army surplus coats, and handmade jewelry. Hair was long and natural for both men and women, and thick mustaches and beards were practically standard issue. Sneakers, clogs, and platform shoes echoed across campus hallways. Even dorm decor reflected the era's personality. Macrame plant hangers, posters of Farrah Fawcett or Jimi Hendrix, and beanbag chairs where friends lounged, talked, and sometimes fell asleep mid-conversation. Every college generation has its stories, and the 70s were no different. Road trips were a rite of passage, piling into a beat-up VW bus, armed with a paper map and a cooler full of sandwiches, heading to music festivals or national parks. Weekend adventures might include hitchhiking to a nearby city to catch a Grateful Dead show or camping under the stars with nothing but a sleeping bag and a guitar. Pranks and late-night antics were part of the culture too, filling dorm rooms with balloons, borrowing cafeteria trays to go sledding in the winter, or organizing spontaneous midnight frisbee games on the quad. Life wasn't all carefree. Inflation and the energy crisis meant many students worked part-time jobs to make ends meet. Political uncertainty lingered, and the future sometimes felt uncertain. But adversity built resilience. Students learned to budget, cook simple meals on hot plates, and fix their own cars. Friendships deepened through shared struggles, whether cramming for exams or pooling money for pizza. Mental health wasn't openly discussed like today, but support often came through community. Dorm families formed naturally, offering a shoulder to lean on when homesickness or stress hit. Entertainment defined the era. Students lined up for midnight showings of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, passed around bootleg cassette tapes, and spent evenings debating lyrics of Bob Dylan songs. Campus radio stations were vibrant, student-run hubs that introduced listeners to new bands and underground sounds. Vinyl collecting was serious business. Records were borrowed, traded, and sometimes forgotten in friends' rooms for weeks. Television was limited, so when major shows like MASH aired, dorm lounges filled with students watching together, sharing snacks and laughter. College life in the 70s was about more than lectures and grades. It was a formative period of self-discovery, social connection, and cultural awakening. Friendships forged on campuses lasted lifetimes, and the sense of community shaped who these students became. Without constant digital distraction, people were present. They looked each other in the eye, had deep conversations, and built memories that didn't need to be liked or shared to matter. Looking back, college life in the 70s might seem like a different world, but its essence remains timeless. The thrill of independence, the bonds of friendship, and the desire to figure out who you are. Maybe the lesson isn't about trading our smartphones for typewriters, but remembering to unplug, be present, and cherish the moments we're living right now, just like they did then. What about you? Do you or someone you know have memories of college life in the 70s? Share your stories in the comments. And if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, give this video a like and subscribe for more nostalgic journeys.